Hi, folks. Let's begin with a prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Time like an ever-rolling stream. I love that image from our hymn today, Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. I can't really even say that hymn title without wanting to continue our hope for years to come. Time. It's such a fascinating concept. We have all the time in the world, we sometimes think, and at other times we know just as strongly that nothing is guaranteed, and we have only this moment. Time like an ever-rolling stream. I love to stand in a river facing upstream, to look up ahead and see how the water is flowing over rocks and through the stream bed, and then to feel the power of that water rushing across and around my legs. I enjoy it when I catch a nice trout in those same waters, but there are plenty of moments of just watching and feeling the water and thinking about how that stream is constantly changing. How the way that stream looks on one day might be completely different on another. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I was standing in the Rush River in western Wisconsin, amazed at how much had changed since the last time I stood in the same spot in that river. But after 9 inches of rain had fallen there in one day this July, it was no longer really the same spot. The GPS coordinates are the same, but everything else had changed. All that rain had become a raging flood, knocking down trees and moving huge amounts of rocks and destroying bridges and changing the shape and depth of the river, scouring the banks and creating new channels. Time, like an ever-rolling stream. We live in turbulent times when change comes rapidly to anything that stands in its path, sometimes in an instant. This week, shocking photographs and stories from the American West, where forest fires are causing devastation and changing lives in an instant. And this week included the 19th anniversary of the attacks of 9/11. And those of us who were alive then recall those moments when life suddenly changed. And we can realize how so much violence and sadness led to a cycle of more violence and more sadness. So our hearts go out to those whose lives have been changed by the forest fires, and we join with those who will always grieve acts of terrorism and violence and the devastation caused by a warming planet. So our faith continues to sing another line from that hymn, our shelter from the stormy blast. And be thou our guard while life shall last. So yes, these are challenging times. And now we are in September, starting a new school year, and it feels to me as if we've been in a long period of time of life during a pandemic. We're living in challenging times and strange ones as well. It's become cliche to say that we are in a territory that is unmapped, uncharted. It's a bit tiring to hear that phrase, and yet it's undeniably true. So, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing? And how do we understand this time we are in? How do we keep going? How do we live with courage and faith and live our best, most faithful life in this time, the time that we have? Because I know that I speak for myself in saying that I want to be faithful. I want to be brave. I want to be able to someday look back upon this period and be able to say, yeah, that was difficult, but we made it through. And we are stronger or wiser or more compassionate now than we were before. And that's what I hear from you as well. So today we begin an exploration about stories of faith from the Bible. Stories of how time is marked and remembered and celebrated, how difficult things are endured together. We'll be looking at stories of long periods of epic struggles told in the Bible, 40 days and nights of rain, and Noah and the ark, and eventually a new beginning. 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, trying to get to the promised land. 40 days of being taunted by a bully, only to have an unlikely leader emerge. 40 days and nights of wandering in the wilderness. There's a recurring number in those stories, 40. It's more than a scientific measurement. It's used in the Bible to represent a long time. How long was that rain? I don't know, it rained for like 40 days and nights. 40, a long time. And so we'll be looking at some of those stories and looking for wisdom and insight and using our faithful imaginations to help us in these times. I'm looking forward to the next couple of months of exploration. But first, we have today, the first day in this series, the first day of the week, on a day when we are presenting Bibles to children in kindergarten and third grade. Let's open the Bible and let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. Remember that sound of music? Remember the cabaret last fall at church? So we turn to the first creation story told in the book of Genesis. It's a story that was first told around campfires, a story that has a cadence to it, with a refrain that could be easily taught and remembered so people could tell the story together. And so in those opening words, we hear about the very first day. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness God called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. It all starts out of nothing. The earth formless and void, and on that first day, God creates light. God creates something out of nothing, creating that light and separating the light from the darkness. Different acts of creation happen on the second and third days and so on. There's a rhythm with this, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. As we listen to this story, we quickly understand that there will be more days, and while so much can happen in one day, there will be more things coming in the days ahead. And it seems like that is a good starting point for us to reflect upon today, that so much can happen in this one day. And yet we do not need to do it all today, because there will be other days. And because God is still creating, and like it or not, we are not God. But we cannot avoid our responsibilities either, since we have been called as partners in creation. Somewhere along the way in these COVID-19 times, I had someone say to me that their big accomplishment that day was to take a shower. Hey, celebrate small victories. Find new opportunities that are open to us and create new patterns that work for good, creating rays of light into this time that can feel formless and void. I told this story a couple weeks ago about a friend in a different part of the country where school starts much earlier than it does here in St. Paul. And I kept thinking about her story as our family and so many of us experienced a first day of school. This friend of mine is an accomplished professor and a parent of 2 young kids. She posted a picture of her work desk and her child on their first day of kindergarten and an older child on their first day of 4th grade. They, the 3 of them, mom, kindergartner, and 4th grader, were all in the same room sitting at different desks. Another friend saw the picture and commented, "I hope it was a good day." And my friend responded, "It was not." And then later wrote a second comment in which she said, "But we made it through. And tomorrow might be a better day." And there was evening, and there was morning, and there will be another day. This is the day that the Lord has made, the psalmist reminds us. The poet Elizabeth Alexander, at a more optimistic moment in our nation's recent history, delivered praise song for the day. And she ended with words I find as true in this moment as they were almost 12 years ago. In today's sharp sparkle, anything can be made, any sentence begun. On the brink, on the brim, on the cusp, praise song for walking forward in that light. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.